Losing weight takes time. Time that you'll never get back. Time that could easily be wasted if you don't know any better. In this video, I'm going to break down the mistakes I made that slowed down my cutting phase by weeks and how you could avoid them if your goal is to lose fat and even gain some muscle along the way. To get you there even faster, I put together a free body recomposition master guide so you could build the body of your dreams without second guessing the process. You could grab it with the link in the description below. The first mistake I wanted to cover is easily the most important one. I used to do this all the time when at the beginning of my lifting journey, and it added weeks or even months to my cutting phases as a result. If your goal is to lose body fat while keeping your total muscle mass, you typically only want to eat 500 calories below maintenance. Since healthy, longer-term fat loss can be achieved by losing a pound of fat per week, I chose that 500 calorie number because a pound of fat is 3,500 calories, and 3,500 split into 7 days is exactly 500 calories. The next step was finding my maintenance calories, and this is where things started to take a wrong turn. Up until now, I just used MyFitnessPal or Mayo Clinic to calculate my maintenance calories. I entered in all my information, and when it came time to determine my general activity level, I didn't know any better and just hit very active. I figured, I go to the gym every day, even though all I'm doing is lifting weights and maybe going for a light walk after, that should be more than enough to meet the requirements of being very active, right? Well, at the time, I was 175 pounds. The calculator estimated my maintenance calories to be 3,100. In my fucking dreams, if that were accurate, in order to lose a pound a week, I'd have to eat 2,600 calories every day. With where I'm at right now, I'd be gaining weight eating that much. What a luxury that would be. In reality though, that number was extremely far off from the truth. And as you can see, the calorie range from inactive to very active varies by almost 1,000 calories per day. So you could only imagine that if you went off of the wrong estimation, not only were you going to slow down your weight loss by a ton, you might even bring it to a complete stop. Given that no maintenance calorie tracker is ever going to perfectly estimate your day-to-day calories, as you'll naturally burn a slightly different amount of calories through whatever activity you're performing, whether it's a form of cardio or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the latter being trivial tasks like walking, fidgeting, or doing chores, I needed to come up with a system that allowed me to make sure I was correctly calculating what I needed to eat to lose that pound per week. Obviously, I figured out that selecting very active assumes that I was doing enough cardio that would equal to running 9 miles on a flat surface. And this is because the jump from inactive to very active was about 900 calories. And at my weight, the average amount of calories burned per 1 mile traveled on foot was 100. I wasn't doing cardio every day though, so to reduce my margin of error, I decided to select inactive instead and go off of those calories. So using the 100 calorie per 1 mile traveled on foot estimation, I would simply just add an additional 100 calories to my allotted daily calorie goal for each mile that I ran that day. So on days that I didn't do any cardio, I would aim to eat about 1,700 to 1,800 calories a day. But let's say I ran 5 miles on a given day, I would add an additional 500 calories, bringing my total I would consume to 2,200 to 2,300. And the reason I have that gap is because I like to eat 100 calories short of my goal most of the time. This isn't required, but it helps me reduce my margin of error even further in the event of any tracking errors I might have made throughout the day. And if you make enough tracking errors, that alone could cost you an additional week or two of cumulative fat loss if your cutting phase is long enough. To summarize everything that I just stated, you shouldn't blindly follow a calorie calculator and eat the same number of calories every day, regardless of activity level. Your diet alone should cover most of your entire fat loss, and cardio should just be a tool to help shave off some additional calories. But it's always a safe bet to eat less than you think you burned off, because the last thing that you want to do is use cardio as an excuse to overeat. That will easily bring your fat loss to a halt and could even turn the scale back the other way if you go overboard. And once you figure out how to properly calculate what you need to eat to lose weight, how can you even properly monitor your progress so you can make sure you're on the right track? So not only was I making the mistake of eating too much, thinking that I was going to be on track to lose a pound a week, I wasn't actually setting myself up with a system to accurately gauge my progress. It's a no-brainer that going off visual changes alone is unreliable because those changes could take weeks to see, and if you aren't actually losing the weight, then you'll never actually see those changes and could potentially lose months of progress. You have to weigh yourself on a regular basis to make sure that you're hitting your weight loss goals. So that's what I tried to do, but except I didn't do a really good job at it. How hard could it be? You just walk up to the scale, step on it, and read the number. If it's lower than last time, you're on the right track, right? Well, you see, weight loss and fat loss are two completely different things. All fat loss is weight, but not all weight loss is fat. Multiple factors like water retention, food volume, time of day, and whether you've even used the bathroom yet influence your total weight. If you want a deeper dive on concepts like these, be sure to join my free school community, Muscle Truth University, with the link below. All my courses and lifting programs are always free, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I was randomly weighing myself whenever I remembered to, and I never got a consistent reading because of that, which isn't smart at all if you want to consistently make sure you're losing the weight that you want to lose. If you're going to weigh yourself on a regular basis, don't judge the scale by how it fluctuates on a daily, but more so on the weekly. It's also a non-negotiable that you weigh yourself at the exact same time in the same spot every day to further boost the consistency of your readings. To make this even more accurate, eat the same foods at the same time every day so you're retaining the same amount of excess weight that you do when you weigh yourself. Obviously, if you eat a giant meal before bed as opposed to not eating at all, there will still be a slight fluctuation in weight even if you weigh yourself at the same time every day. Even go as far as wearing the same thing when you step on the scale, or just wear nothing at all, because even your underwear alone can account for an additional quarter pound of weight. And while I still find it important to weigh yourself every day, like I said earlier, the way to find out if you're actually losing the fat is to read the days that are exactly a week apart. This will help you figure out if you correctly calculated your maintenance calories. Once I implemented this strategy, I tracked my weight for an entire week. So day 1, I was 175 pounds. And day 7, I weighed in at 174 pounds. This means I was in a total deficit of 3,500 calories for the week because a pound of fat is equal to that amount of calories. This means I finally cracked the code on how to properly calculate my calories and weigh myself correctly so I can make sure I was losing weight every single week. I was doing everything right and I was dropping a pound a week every single week until one week my weight didn't drop at all. But I wrote it off as a fluke. I figured I was just bloated or holding extra water. So I kept weighing myself every day with no changes and figured by the next week my body would just sort itself out. Well, how do you think that turned out? 2 weeks it passed and my weight was still exactly the same. That's 2 weeks I'm never going to get back. And if I don't do something about it, I'll lose even more time. A mistake tons of people, including myself, make is not realizing that as you start to lose weight, your maintenance calories will also slowly start to decrease as your body naturally uses less energy to maintain the less mass that it's carrying around. You don't want to go crazy and just drop your calories by another 500 or more. That could potentially lead to some sort of muscle loss if you sustain an extreme deficit for a long period of time. And I used to take this approach because I wanted to undo the weeks of progress that I halted by eating close to maintenance, and instead I would eat severely under what I needed to lose that pound a week. But it also just isn't as sustainable, and it could potentially lead you to burning out and binging your way out of your fat loss journey. Instead, just drop the calories by about 150 to 200 if you plateau to be on the safe side, and weigh yourself again a week later to see if you're back on track. This change in calories is also why people gain the weight that they lost back in a short period of time. Even if their diets have changed for the better, they don't realize that the amount of total calories they have to eat to maintain their current weight have also gone down. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to you, so I'm going to give you my go-to equation for tracking your maintenance calories on the fly in the form of your basal metabolic rate. Statistically, the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation is one of the most accurate. Here's how to use it. So the equation is 4.536 multiplied by your weight in pounds. Add that to 15.88 multiplied by your height in inches, and then subtract 5 multiplied by your age in years, and then add 5. It sounds complicated, but I'll give you an example to break it all down. This is my calculation for reference. I started with 4.536, multiplied my weight of 155. I got 703.08. Then I multiplied 15.88 by my height in inches, which is 68. That equals to 1,709.84. Then I multiplied 5 times my age, which is 27. That equals 135. And then I added 5. So the final calculation is 703.08 plus 1,079.84 minus 135 plus 5, which equals 1,652.92 calories. This means my BMR is approximately 1,653 calories per day. This is the number of calories that my body burns at rest just to maintain basic physiological functions. So if I just laid in bed all day and didn't move and didn't do anything, this is roughly what my body would burn. Now, to get your total daily energy expenditure, which is your maintenance calories, you would multiply this by your activity level factor, which is 1.2 to 1.9, depending on how active you are. But remember what I said at the beginning of the video. You run the risk of increasing your margin of error the higher you multiply that number by without any context. So like I said earlier, we want to start with inactive, which is 1.2 in this case. I'm at the end of my cut, so that brings my maintenance calories estimated to about 2,000. I've been eating 1,500 calories a day and then adding 100 calories for each mile that I run or walk. And even with being as lean as I am, I'm still losing a pound a week because I'm accurately logging and eating what I'm supposed to. Because I take the time to recalibrate my maintenance calories now as I drop weight, I'm reducing the risk of plateauing by a significant amount, which means I can spend less total time in a deficit and really make every week count. So if your goal is to lose body fat while maintaining or gaining muscle mass, you want to make sure that you're not making any of these mistakes. So not only will correcting these mistakes save weeks or months of time that you wouldn't otherwise ever get back, but that's less time you'll have to spend in that deficit, and we all know that shit sucks. The process of fat loss can be daunting for a beginner, even when applying all of the correct principles that I've just discussed. So if you want to lose body fat as fast as possible in the healthiest way possible, but have no idea where to start, you can book a private free one-on-one call with me. It's just for me to see if I can help you, and if I can, we'll come up with a game plan that can either be implemented yourself or working one-on-one with me. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.